Kumo bantalako e-electronics walla nata de brikama sate kono koteng badi ngulu e-electronics e bale damin wala mu Islamic Bank nyatili ngula brikama sate kono e-electronics itol dung ika electronic jorango bele wafi mine boko channelolu complete setolu alla nyin satellite discolu domonde malu ani waramambalu nyin television kutolu mine yalon ko wolle be jamano kono smart tv lu kata fo flat screen e manada wala sola jorango itemol sifa wa sifa fengo fen naka dun sola kunto pura e mara e ka belek bari man nada wala de kando warte ko air conditioner minke la bungo kono sumayandi anin fengo fe yalon ko electrical jorangol long fanalu kata fo radio lu anin bluetooth speaker lu kata fo bluetooth headphone lu abele bije
nka boliso wa fale na sifa wa sifa pasiran ferolu dispensaru blendalu ka tape frijolu kurla masingolu ani CCTV camera
wala ka kuma koyo moy nyinko beto ali kumandi e-electronics
788-9398 618-9398 981-9398
tonya e-electronics jele mutadulate ngo ibe Angleterre Lebanon Scotland wala Wales ni atare be nyin dural to andu fengol be bulu la faminul kila na Gambia ngale ko jakalo banda kato ko munum Group 5 Logistic Limited wala nata kalo da hande iko sea freight and air freight wodom nyinte ko nim femba baade bulu alafta min kila na Gambia e ka sambale nan nin kulun wala baji yokon bannim fendi wolle bal bulal be korontori ye futay ka fami ye joni o fanay ka bulal ye kununtila kono ya sambale nan 37 hapoto ka kinem ba kono kulunwalla wala o office be latre kunda sabijile bannim fendi wala be bulu lafta minkila Angleterre wala lafta ya kiyenan kabona Angleterre ibitela office to me yalon ko abe sukota Kawos Johnson wala Dahaba Johnson e commande telephone to 7420694 wala 730-8905 521-6583 740-2533 Hansa Ndorela Call Center wala mu 020-011-1440 wala Hansa Inde alsitano la website otolali alla order kaji www.group5logistics.com badingolo Group 5 Logistics tonya nyinelo mu nyonta ngolati nanata sea freight and air freight.
The media, our partners here present this morning. Good morning, members of my executive of the Citizens Alliance under the leadership of Dr. Ismaila Cisse. Before we get into today's event, can we please invoke the presence of God in our midst? So can I ask that we all pray for a few seconds in a different individual ways, please? May God answer all our prayers, protect us, guide us so that we achieve whatever has brought us together this morning. Amen. Members of the media, everybody watching us, first of all, I just want to apologize strongly for the late start. We had setbacks this morning. That is why we're not able to start on time, 10 o'clock, as we communicated. But in Citizens Alliance, we have guiding principles. When setbacks happen, we ask ourselves, do we allow the setbacks to discourage us, or do we allow it to bring us determination? And we choose to allow setbacks and challenges to bring us determination. So I will say we are starting off this morning's activities with a lot of determination. We are fired up and ready to go and tackle issues as it deems fit. So thank you very much for coming. We are appreciative of your partnership with us, always engaging with us when we call you. Thank you very much. And then again, sorry for the late start. This morning here we called you. We sent out a communique and say, please come, let's engage again. This was our promise at Congress that we will be engaging with the media and the citizenry on a monthly basis to discuss issues that are pertinent to our country, issues that affect the lives and livelihoods of Gambians. And I think thus far we have kept to our promise. We're in July, and here we are doing the 7th monthly press conference. So I say kudos to ourselves. Touch wood. I hope nothing happens down the line, that we'll be able to keep up to this and do it on a monthly basis. And I want to also thank you for always coming to engage with us when we call. And in our communique, we say we call you to unveil a very, very important document. We call it 10-point promise. And can you highlight the word promise here? 10-point promise. If I take your minds back, sometime last year in December, I stand to be corrected, we called you, I think it was in this same room, where we launched another document, which was our party manifesto. And that document, we called it Our Contract with the People. And just to remind you, this is the manifesto that we launched here, which we went around the whole country, engage with people from different walks of life to get their take, to have their take in this document, because it's the document for the people, a contract with the people. Again, we embark on another daunting task, a very, very difficult task, to talk to people, experts from different walks of life, to come up with a 10-point promise. And our engagement was to know what affects the lives and livelihoods of Gambians. What do they expect of their leader? And how will they hold their leaders accountable? We sum this up and put it on a 10-point, and we call it our 10-point promise. Today, under the leadership of Dr. Sisi, he's going to unveil this document and take you through what Citizens Alliance will do once we take the State House December 5th, 2021. And when we unveil it to you, please take note and hold us accountable as we go through our first 5 years in government. Without much ado, I want to invite Dr. Ismaila Cisse to start that crusade with you right now. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Nene Frida Gomez, for that brilliant introduction. Good morning, members of the press, and also members of the public here today to witness this very important day, not only in the journey of Citizens Alliance, but also in the journey of the Republic of the Gambia. Members of the press, those present here today and those who could not make it unavoidably, I take this opportunity to thank you for your partnership. I remember since we launched this great party, we had made an internal pact within the party that we will have the media as one of our greatest partners during our journey. And I think this partnership is working fine, and so far we are happy. And we thank you as well for the wonderful work you are doing in disseminating critical information to the public, despite obviously the very many challenges. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of the executive of the Citizens Alliance present here today. Obviously, I need not introduce Nene Frida Gomez, the darling of the press. She is indefatigable spokeswoman. She had once mentioned sternly, in fact warning us, that we should refrain from calling her the spokesperson and that we should call her the spokeswoman. Rafi Diab, obviously, everybody knows him, I think, by now. He is national mobilizer. He's also here today on the low table. And of course, our very own Mr. Dominic Mendy, the national president of the party, the most youthful member of our executive, obviously. After Dominic, chairman, we have our KMC regional chairman, Mr. Ngari Cham, sitting there. And then last but not least, we have Mr. Basiru Manka. He is the regional chair for Lower River region. Before I start this very important press conference where we will unveil this 10-point agenda to the Gambian people, what we are saying is very simple, that Gambia elect us on December 4th. And when you do, we are going to do, in addition obviously to what is in our manifesto, which is more of a long-term blueprint, we are going to ensure we fulfill a promise that we call a contract with the Gambian people. There are 10 things that we promise that we will do in our first 5 years in office. And if we don't, you can hold us accountable. Gone are the days when politicians cannot be held accountable for their words. We live in a digital world now. Whatever you say, whatever you do, is stored and archived. You'll forget about it, but people will not forget. And in fact, if you're an ardent Facebook user, sometimes something will just pop up to remind you of a post you made 5 years ago. So we are making this bold, ambitious promise to the Gambian people, and very soon I will unveil it after going through some brief protocol. Number one, we all know that there is an increase, a surge, in the infection of the Delta variant of the coronavirus. The Delta variant is more infectious, more lethal. And unlike the Beta variant, it is very cruel to young people. If you remember, the Beta variant and the previous variants were mostly killing those who are clinically vulnerable and also mostly elderly people. But this Delta variant is really, really a serious one. So and the only thing that can protect you and your family and your friends and your neighbors from the Delta variant and its cruelty is by getting vaccinated. Through the COVAX framework, Gambia had received at first 30,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, which I think were all administered. Last week, we received 150,000 doses from the American government. I take this opportunity to thank our American partners under the leadership of Joe Biden for giving us those 150,000 doses. So now the Ministry of Health are going around rolling out these vaccines to Gambians. I urge every Gambian who has the opportunity to take the vaccine, especially you members of the press. Your work is critical. You go everywhere. You talk to everyone. You are one of the frontline workers, in fact. When we say frontline, I think it should be priority. Even though there is I haven't seen any strategy, it might exist in terms of how it will be rolled out, but I think the press, the media, should be given priority to take the vaccine. And I think every person who is a journalist should endeavor to take the vaccine as soon as possible, because you go everywhere, you deal with everyone, you interact with society on a daily basis. So it is very critical that you take this vaccine, but also every Gambian to do so if you have the opportunity. Secondly, I'd like to wish our Olympic team, the Gambians who are flying the Gambian flag high in Tokyo, wish them best wishes and good luck, that we are proud of them. They are going to represent the Gambian flag in Tokyo. And we hope and pray that for the first time in our history, they will bring us at least a few gold medals, at least a medal, even if it's bronze or silver. But we hope, and we are very hopeful. The talent we sent there is a great talent. And I hope they will inspire other young people to engage in sports, but also inspire government to invest more money in sports so that Gambia can have glory in international theaters like the World Cup, the African Nations Cup, but also, in fact, the Olympics as it is going on. Another thing is the transitional justice. We all know that, obviously, the TRRC is done with its work insofar as testimonies are concerned, and the Commission is working on submitting its report and final recommendations. We urge the Commission to do a fine work and not to rush the report. The entire transitional justice framework of the Gambia now depends solely on the TRRC. No need to rush. Take your time, write a comprehensive report, come up with an unbiased recommendations that will foster reconciliation and make sure justice is served. That is why we call it transitional justice. There can be no transition in the Gambia from autocracy to democracy if there is no justice. So therefore, the report, the recommendations must ensure that justice is served, victims get the right reparations, it promotes reconciliation, but already we know the truth. But wishing them good luck on that. And we urge the government as well to make sure that the recommendations are fully implemented. And we at CA, we are making that pledge that we will do our utmost best to ensure that the recommendations are implemented. Before I start the unveiling of the 10-point agenda or promise, I'd like to introduce this young man, Bakari Sane, who is here with us today. He is the one helping us to make this broadcast accessible to those who are difficulties in hearing. So thank you very much for your presence. We appreciate you very much. I think, in fact, it should become law in this country as part of an equality legislation to ensure that every public event should get someone like Bakari Sane to ensure that those who are impaired, audio, those who are audio impaired, those who can't hear properly, are not discriminated against. And this is something that we should consider. Now, the most important thing that which brings us here today. Are you ready, members of the press and members of the public? So we call it Citizens Alliance 10-point promise or agenda, or you can call it 1045 or T4F. People who are as lazy, people like myself who are lazy, I don't want to call it 10-point plan, 10-point promise. I'll just call it T45. That's easy, huh? That is the promise. Number one, the Citizens Alliance government promises to diversify our economy, to drive growth and job creation. Not only that, we promise to reform the civil service and state-owned enterprises and to eradicate corruption. These are bold and ambitious promises. We are not saying we are going to reduce corruption or fight it, we are going to eradicate it, and we are very serious about it. So we have to diversify our economy. Not only that, but why do we have to diversify the economy? To drive growth. When there is no growth, there are no jobs. The economy is stagnant. Drive growth, create jobs, reform the civil service to make it lean and efficient and effective. To use innovative solutions in service delivery in the Gambia. And also our state-owned enterprises, which are supposed to do two things, and they are failing in those respects. They are supposed to provide service, but also bring dividend to government, and most are failing in that respect. We are going to reform them. Serious structural reforms, not lip service reform, serious structural reforms. But also we are going to eradicate corruption. We all know now that the civil service is not motivated especially civil servants. There is high level of demotivation, there are no incentives, salary is low, professional ethics is a problem. There is no transparency in how public funds are managed currently in the country. And there is serious misuse of corporate assets. We are going to stop all that. We are going to eradicate corruption. We are in fact going to reduce the number of ministries, not reduce the number of ministries, but also in fact remove some ministries and bring in new ministries. The ministries we have now, the 1890 ministries we have now, we are created since independence, some in the 80s, to solve and deal with challenges of the 70s and 80s and 90s. We are in 2021 heading towards 2050. We need new institutions that can not only deal with today's challenges, but also anticipate future challenges and start dealing with them now. Therefore, we need new, innovative ministries. So we are going to reform, that will be part of our civil service reform. We are going to obviously reevaluate the payroll to make sure people are paid the value of their labor so that every Gambian is paid a living wage. We set targets and do performance evaluation. Recruitment will be based only on merit. We will eradicate to zero nepotism. And will establish a charter of ethics that every civil servant will work by. And will reform the SOEs. SOEs are critical to our development. What do we do with Ports Authority? It must be reformed, structural reforms. Gambia is strategically placed to harness the power of our maritime and our aviation. The power and the potential of our maritime industry and our aviation has not been really utilized properly so far since independence. Gambia should have been a hub, aviation hub, not only for West Africa, but also that entire West African region, even and beyond, even Asia, if you look at the strategic location that we have, even our maritime. We should be serving Asia, Europe, southern part of Africa with goods coming from our ports, making Banjul a truly port city. I know some Banjulians would not like this, but I would like to see in the future our capital move to Soma and Farafenye, having what we call a twin city linked by the bridge. And Banjul becomes a truly port city, a truly maritime city. We are going to restructure NAWEC. NAWEC will be, I see a government will do exactly what? Because NAWEC has three components. Management. We'll change management. We are going to make sure that NAWEC is managed by competent professional private firms to make it more effective. Power generation will change as well. We are moving away progressively from heavy fuel and generators to more green energy. We are going to engage the private sector and have independent power producers to work with to make sure we have NAWEC is efficient. Not only that, provide services, cheap services, but also bring dividend. Ports, GIA, GAMTEL, GAMCEL will reform, structurally reform all these state-owned enterprises to make sure they provide service, but also bring dividend to government. When it comes to the economy, how do we diversify it? Today, Gambia's debt stock is 78% of GDP. That is the debt ratio to GDP. That's too high. We'll renegotiate our debt to reduce the current government debt. We'll also make sure there's efficient spending in government, but also we reform our taxation regime. Currently, we think that many people are not paying their fair share of society. And also ensure that we reduce the informal sector so that we can really receive more tax that will be invested in people. We'll invest for growth in critical industries, like I said, maritime and aviation, and make Gambia competitive for foreign direct investment, and ensure we have the right conditions. A knowledge economy by building capacity of young people, by building human capital, having the right legal frameworks, having the right infrastructure, both energy infrastructure and road infrastructure, to attract global capital, to bring multinational corporations to Gambia, to provide jobs for our young people, not only any job, but also decent jobs, working within the framework of our robust laws, labor laws, and environmental laws. We'll expand the tax base, tighten controls in terms of government spending, and inject professional and competent management in government and SOEs. So that is number 1. Promise 2, we are making a commitment to create 100,000 jobs in the Gambia in our first 5 years. Not only that, we are making a commitment to progressively impose minimum wage in this country. Not only that, we are going to establish a scheme to expand women's access to finance. That is also a commitment we are making to the Gambian people. Women should get access to finance, to engage in entrepreneurship, to get access to land, to get access to assets. That is the only way you can empower women in this country. Young people must get jobs. We'll provide skills, not any job, but jobs that pay and that can ensure our young people live a decent life. So that if you want to be a carpenter, you are a successful carpenter, you can buy your own house as a carpenter, get your own car, and take care of your family and yourself. So that if you want to be a journalist in the Gambia, you can be a successful journalist, buy your own house through journalism, and have your own car, and go on vacation once a year, and go out to restaurants to eat twice a week. So that if you want to be a footballer, you can be a footballer in the Gambia, you are a successful footballer in the Gambia, a professional one for that matter. You can buy your own house as a footballer in the Gambia, your own car, and you live a decent life as a footballer in the Gambia. So we are going to provide 100,000 jobs across all sectors, from the construction, to sports, to music, to arts, to the environment, you name it. 100,000 jobs we are promising. December 2026, if we don't provide 100,000 jobs for Gambians, don't vote us in again. Sack us from the job. Promise 3, facilitate expansion of infrastructure and technology upgrades to provide reliable, clean, and affordable energy and provide access to safe drinking water to every household. Like I said, one of the ways in which we can achieve this is to do a fundamental restructuring of NAWEC to ensure that, like I said, all these 4 components, management is taken care of. Power generation, we bring technology and innovative solutions for power generation. Not only that, distribution, transmission and distribution infrastructure and networks will be rehabilitated, will do investments in the distribution networks and transmission networks, but also in terms of the commercials. All those 4 components, management, generation, T&D, which is transmission and distribution, and commercials, which is supply. But also provide access to clean drinking water. We think it is unfair for some people to have swimming pools in their homes, while our people in rural Gambia struggle to get a liter of water. There should be equitable distribution of water across the country. Every Gambian must get access to clean drinking water in your compound and not go out to fetch water in the well or in public taps. We are making that commitment to the Gambian people. Promise 4, improve access, equity, and quality of our healthcare system and establish a national health care scheme. So we are not only committing to improve access by making sure we train more healthcare staff, the right training, by investing in primary healthcare to ensure that we have a scheme called Healthcare Where You Are. You don't have to move from Sibeto in Kabada to Quinella for you to deliver as a woman, as it is happening now. If a woman wants to deliver in Sibeto, in Kabada, they'll have to put her on the back of a donkey cart to trek the 12-kilometer trip to Quinella Health Center. During the rainy season, when the roads are bad, sometimes the woman will give birth at the back of the donkey cart. That will stop in this country with the CA government. We are going to make sure there is healthcare facilities, not only healthcare, but well-equipped with well-trained staff and well-trained equipment to make sure healthcare is accessible to every Gambian, no matter your gender, no matter your age, no matter which ethnicity you come from, or no matter which region you come from, or no matter from which parents you are born. Not only that, equity in healthcare, but also quality healthcare, and also establish a national healthcare scheme, or what we would call a national healthcare strategy. The British had the foresight 75 years ago to establish the NHS, and today it is one of the most successful healthcare strategies the world has seen. We should be bold enough and ambitious enough to also establish a new national healthcare strategy that the world will come and use as a model in other countries. Promise number 5, reform our education system to support and foster learning that ensures inclusivity and equitable quality education that taps into the creative potential of all Gambians. We have to reform the education sector. For now, it is not fit for purpose. If your education sector cannot solve your most basic problems, if you cannot help us repair our potholes in the streets and build our small corner roads and help us stop these house fires and these unnecessary accidents, then that education sector has failed. It's supposed to help solve problems. If it cannot help us build the society we want in 25 years' time, then it has failed. We have to reform the health sector to do 2 dual purposes. One, to help us solve today's complex problems, but also help us build the modern Gambia we want in 25, 30 years' time. So we are going to reform the education system. Currently, it is a colonial cobweb to support and foster learning. Not only learning, but learning that ensures inclusivity, no matter your disability. It's unfair for children with disabilities, visually impaired, those who are deaf, physically impaired, are not treated equally. They are discriminated in our schools because there are no teaching aid materials for them. There is no proper pedagogy for them. And yet, when it's time for us to go to UTG, they'll do a blanket 5 credits for all students. But those students did not get equity in education. That is why if you ask UTG, how many % of your students are living with disabilities, we don't know. Very few, you can't even count them. That should not happen. So we'll provide inclusivity, gender sensitive. Every girl must get access to education. In fact, we are even going further to say education will be compulsory. Compulsory. No child will be seen selling fruits or peanuts in the streets during school time. Every parent must ensure your child goes to school. Otherwise, you deal with the state. Compulsory education. No compromise about that. Compulsory education. Equitable education. Quality education. Not only that. Currently, the system is discriminatory against those who are technically oriented. You go to grade 12. Only those who can go to UTG proceed. The rest, you are out. You become jobless. No, not everybody can go to UTG. We'll make sure we create a skills training system a vocational system in the school system through the reforms to ensure those who are technically gifted go learn skills and they become successful in that. Those who are academic gifted go to UTG or university and they are good at that. That is what we are going to do. Promise 6, we promise as a government to facilitate investments in climate resilient agriculture to enhance productivity and achieve food security. Our vision is very simple. We are going to make sure that within our first 5 years, we have the right investments, tapping private capital to ensure we move away from subsistence agriculture to commercial large-scale agriculture using new knowledge and new technologies. We are going to make sure that also we introduce within our first 5 years, round the year, and not seasonal agriculture. The rains we are supposed to start 2 months ago were in August before the week ends. And yet it has rained, I think, only 2 or 3 times. The one time, it brought massive destruction to homes and livelihoods. These are the impacts of climate change. Recently, if you are an ardent news follower, you'll realize that Central China and Western Europe are having deadly floods. The MENA countries, Middle East and North Africa, are having droughts, ravaging dry spells, no water. And in West Africa, like Gambia, there are erratic rains. You'll realize that all the rains that were supposed to come in the past 2 months will come in 2 days in August, destroying harvests and people's homes. We need to build climate resilient society, and we have to build an adaptable systems to ensure we have an agricultural system that ensures it is round the year through rain harvesting and also through using both our underground waters and also our surface waters, which we have in abundance, and ensure that we improve access to private sector capital so that young people can engage in agriculture. One of the things, if you go back, 100,000 jobs in the agro industry and its value chain. It goes with manufacturing, the agribusiness, and the agro-processing facilities we are going to create by doing what we call regional specialization. What is that? Fonyi is good in terms of their climate and soil at producing fruits. We'd like to see hectares and hectares and hectares of plantations, of pineapples, of bananas, of mangoes and oranges in Fonyi, where young people work. And in Fonyi, there are processing facilities that process these pineapples and these bananas and these mangoes that will be used in our supermarkets and our markets and for export to other parts of the world. This can be done through developing comprehensive agricultural or bankable agricultural projects, leveraging from both internal funding and external funding. And when we say external funding, internal funding, if you also follow news, you'll realize that last year what we received from remittances is 40% of GDP. That is huge. They are going to create the conditions right, even though that the conditions are not right, but we'll create the conditions right to tap from the diaspora with their wealth and knowledge, by, amongst others, issuing what they call diaspora bonds. So those in the diaspora can safely invest their money in Gambia, which can also help develop our country. So that is agriculture to help us achieve food security. Today, we are not food secure. We only produce 19% of our rice needs, and rice is our staple food. Now, global obstructions, so global interruptions, can really bring untold hunger in this country. We are very vulnerable And I think the COVID-19 has laid bare that. We've seen how inflation now has risen in this country. It's a global phenomenon. It's everywhere. So we need to make sure we are food secure as a country. Promise 7, this is a very bold and ambitious promise. I spoke to some experts who advised that we avoid giving numbers because we can find it very difficult if we don't achieve it. My answer is I am 100% sure, and I'm confident that we will achieve it. That is why I am bold enough to say we are going to build 100,000 affordable green homes for low-income earners like you, the journalists, staying here today. 100,000 affordable homes. For teachers, for nurses, for security officers like police officers, and other young Gambian civil servants who live on low income. We don't want any Gambian ever to work your entire life, rent your entire life, you die renting, and you leave your small family renting. That is going to stop in this country because we are going to build 100,000 homes. Why 100,000, some will ask? Because we looked at the data of 2015, it tells us that to close the housing gap, we need to build 50,000 homes. But it's 2021, we are going to build 100,000. We'll do it and you will see it, and we'll come back to you in 2026 and say, well, we promised you 100,000, we built it. Give us a mandate again and you will do it, and we'll build another 200,000-300,000 homes for the Gambia. And these will not be just any homes. They'll be green homes. We are going to tap on public-private partnerships. That brings together the complementary capabilities of government in facilitating access to land, access to services, having the power to give tax breaks and duty waivers, but also to create the enabling environment. And also, once this is combined with the private sector's discipline and execution capabilities, we can build 100,000 homes in our first 5 years. In building these homes, why we say green, we are going to use new technology and new standardization for rapid delivery. We've also estimated that this project alone is going to be one of the most brazen, most expansive public infrastructural projects the Gambia has ever seen. It is going to provide 30,000 jobs for our young people, this sector, this project alone. And we are going to make sure that the majority of the materials used to build these homes are internally sourced. I visited GTTI and I saw how they are making these very nice bricks from earth. And they are resilient, they are green, they are not environmentally destructive. So we reduce our dependence on cement. So, Promise 7, build 100,000 affordable green homes for low-income earners. Obviously, the scheme will determine who is eligible, whether we are going to earmark 50% of the homes to teachers, nurses, and police officers, and the rest 50%, the rest, but we'll come up with the scheme as time goes on. Promise 8, we as a party are very wary of the environment. So therefore, we are going to protect our environment by doing what? We are going to tackle environmental pollution, or what they call industrial pollution. These so-called fish meal factories, they will no longer destroy our environment. We are going to protect our marine resources, not only for us, but for the next generation, because they also own it. We are going to invest in clean energy. Like I said, progressively, our idea is that by 2050, we are going to ensure that we have a green Gambia. by ensuring that the cars that will be driven in our streets, they emit the right emissions. We are going to put targets and caps on the kind of vehicles that will run on our roads. Not any vehicle. Some vehicles are not roadworthy. We'll bring big machines and scrap them all and sell the iron to China. But only clean vehicles will run our roads. We are going to invest in clean energy, waste management, and protect our flora and fauna. Reforestation. Build more forests. So that is what we are promising to do as a country. I'm not sure whether you've read what they call the Gambia Environment Action Plan, written by the National Environment Agency. Very comprehensive. When I read it, I realized that Gambia does not lack good regulatory frameworks. What we lack is implementation and having standards. If you haven't read it yet, read the phase 3 of that from 2021 to 2030. It will just tell you exactly what a CA government will do. Promise 9. Recently, we've seen a surge in crime and public safety. We are going to improve standards of living to fight the root causes of crime. See, to fight crime, you don't only focus on oppression. You focus on also fighting the root causes. And you can only do that if you improve standards of living and provide jobs for young people. So we are going to improve standards of living to fight the root causes of crime, reform the criminal justice system, especially prison reforms. Currently, our prison is not fit for purpose. It's supposed to serve what they call a rehabilitation purpose, penitentiary, to rehabilitate offenders. So when they serve their sentence, they come back to society as born again, good citizens to serve society. But the current prison system we have, in fact, it emboldens and hardens criminals. There is no structure. When you come out, you come back and you go back to crime. We are going to do prison reforms. Among those, we can boldly say as a CA government, some prisoners will vote. Not all. Those accused of rape, murder, those bad crimes, no, but some prisoners will vote, depending on the sentence. We are going to also give their prisoners, they have rights. We are going to make sure justice is not delayed, as we are seeing now. And there is no transparency, and there is no equity in the delivery of justice in this country. The poor man has a higher likelihood of paying for his crimes than the rich man. The poor youth who is caught in the street corner with a joint is going for 6 months to 1 year. For what? Whilst the top executive officers steal out millions in government, they go scot-free. In fact, they are praised in society and glorified. That will stop in this country by making sure we embark on reforming of the criminal justice system. As a particular case, that should be of interest of every Gambian. We said never again the Mile 29 or Mile 28 case with Yankuba Baji. It's either if you suspect someone of committing a crime, do justice. Do justice. Bring evidence, convict, let them serve. But having people in Mile 2 for 10, 15, 20 years without proper trial and without conviction, it should not happen in this country. Because justice delayed is justice denied. And that applies to anybody who is in Mile 2. Sitting there and your justice is delayed, we think it is unfair. Justice must be served efficiently, effectively, and rapidly so that nobody's right is violated. So we are going to reform the criminal justice system. Not only that, on the operations aspect, strengthen and equip the security sector to ensure public safety. To ensure public safety, we are going to equip the police and all law enforcement agencies, the immigration, the prison services, the fire services, with new fire engines, with new training, new equipment, new gadgets, new digital infrastructure for the police within our first 5 years, new pay, so they are paid well, new uniforms, nice uniforms, new vehicles. Gambia should even have by now a police helicopter. That should be flying at night, written there, police. We should have that. That can serve at the same time as an emergency mechanism when there's an accident in one of the roads around Kiang to evacuate. By now, 2021, we can have it. We have the potential to do that. So we are going to equip the police. We are also going to build new institutions. One of the institutions we are going to build is a separate driving authority, license and driving authority. We don't believe that the police should be issuing licenses and they in turn enforce it. There should be a special authority responsible for issuing licenses, and it has to do with road traffic, signs and signage to ensure we reduce accidents in this country. Promise 10, finally. We're going to expand and strengthen public transport. Today we are at the mercy of some of us who join the Gele Gele every day to go to work, some of us. We know how it feels. I pay 5 fares from Brikama to Westfield. The van driver will tell me, "Nkadam faratole. Ngadafa farata aji ngaji ay tara na ko sa ngadan lamin le. Lamin na ko nya sa Tabokoto ko nya sa Westfield. Then me futala Westfield $100 si jola. It's unfair. So we are going to invest in public transport, especially for school children. I see school children begging for lift every day. Some even go to late. Some go back home. They cannot get transport to go to school. So we are going to invest in public transport in this country, both urban and regional, through what they call the 3 R's, rail, river, and transport. Rail might be long-term. These are long-term investments, but it's possible. We have to revive our river transportation sector. We are going to work with the GPU to come up with the right strategies to ensure that media personnel are protected, just like any other Gambian. No media personnel should be harassed or feel threatened while doing your job, both online and offline. So that will not happen under a CA government. And we are going to bring strong legislation to protect the media because it is the first estate. If there can be legislation to protect the parties of the president and the National Assembly members and the judiciary, there must be strong legislation to protect media personnel. It means one of the things we'll do is to even make it even a more harder sentence and a more serious crime if you harass a journalist than if you harass somebody who's not a journalist. So we are going to work with the GPU, we'll engage the GPU, sit together, come up with the right framework to ensure you Mr. Chelsea, you are protected.
I'm going to reiterate. Earlier on, I said, at the level of Citizens Alliance, we believe that truth exists and lies are created. Doctor has mentioned earlier on, we've seen in this country, people say one thing, the next minute they say, I've taken it back, I don't mean it. We at Citizens Alliance, we won't be those kind of people. And looking back, for far too long, 56 years to be precise, the CA believes that we've asked for little, we've received little, and we settled for little. That needs to change. We, the Gambians, deserve better. We, the citizenry, deserve greater. Us deserve the best. Can we get it? Absolutely yes, but with the kind of leadership. An influential leader, we believe, a visionary leader, a leader who has love for his or her people, an empathetic leader, a charismatic leader, and of course, a leader who has some level of intellectual pedigree. And I stand here today to tell you the Citizens Alliance has provided that kind of a leader for you, who is no other person than Dr. Ismaila Ceesay. So come 2021, December 4th, choose right, choose wisely, choose the right leader, who will be Dr. Ismaila Ceesay, to salvage us as a country and as a people. Thank you very much, my friends, our partners, the media, and everybody watching us. We will come your way again for the 8th a monthly press conference next month. And until then, it's a very warm thank you, and have a blessed day. Thank you very much.
Wallam toto balakando chokidimo ani niji la kolea woldol mo misalo timilka tinako moka sobi ko koni coronavirus lati